Hi honey, I'm home and you're back for the next tutorial on how to create a VSL. And we're going to talk about step 4 of the 5-step VSL process today. And this is video number 5. This is all about the bigger solution. Your solution is going to be bigger than the problem was, and that's going to create a viral sensation. People will start spreading around your VSL as an educational tool. I can't wait to dive into this. I'm John Benson, and this is Sales Copy Secrets. Okay, the bigger solution only has 2 steps. Again, kinda. The first of the 2 steps is by far the most important, and that is called the open tip loop. What is that? Well, this is where we're going to loop some things. You're going to have more than one tip that you're going to share so that you can create some virality to this video. I don't recommend sharing more than 3 tips because it'll get kind of long, but you can and should share tips that are essentially useful and a little vague. Useful but incomplete is one way of thinking about how to give tips. So you want to give open-ended tips that people can apply, that will be educational, things they can do, but leave them knowing that they can't do it all on their own, that they're gonna need some help, and that you are by far and away the best resource for that help. And I believe in giving away like 80% of what you're talking about. I'm giving away 80% in this video series. Well, maybe more like 70%, but it's close to 80% because I have software that I want you to see below. Now VSL, grab it because it's going to help you make a lot of money, I think, potentially. Knock on Flormica. If you apply yourself, caveats apply, etc., etc. But it has made a lot of people a lot of money, billions, literally with a B, of revenue over the last 10 years. Now VSL, check it out. The link is below. It will help you write all this copy much faster and give you many variations so that you don't have to do it all on your own. But back to this. You're going to want to give your tips in a way that's going to be super helpful, yet leading people to the only possible solution being getting a little bit more help. And I use what's called the 3-tip formula. Now, the 3 tips that I like to use are tips on how to avoid pain, tips on how to get more pleasure, and how-to tips, like technical tips. You don't have to use all 3 in each segment. Just pick one that you want to use. So for an example, for weight loss, what I would say is now that you know the big lie, and now that you know that that's the reason that your weight gain is happening to you right now, of course, I wouldn't use that exact copy. I would use better copy than that, but I am speaking off the top of my head. Let me give you some tips on how you can get started right now. Now, right away, this should jump out at you. Let me give you some tips. Really leaps out at you as an educational video. And again, you really want to do that. So I would list out 3 tips. The very first thing I want you to do is avoid carbohydrates after 6 p.m. Now, I'm making this up. I avoid carbohydrates almost all day long, but for some people are vegans, they eat carbohydrates all day long. So this is not a nutritional lecture, but I might say something like that so that it gains interest and piques somebody's attention, right? I really want to pique their interest and I really want to whet their appetite for more. So if I say stop eating these types of carbs after 6 o'clock, I'm going to give you 2 examples. I don't want you to eat potatoes and I don't want you to eat rice. Let's say I'm making this up again. Now, there are other carbs that you need to not eat after 6, and I'll cover more about that in just a moment. What am I doing? If you say open loop, you win a brownie, a keto brownie, but nonetheless a brownie. Good for you. That is an open loop. Where am I going to close that loop? I'm going to close that loop in my offer. Oh, by the way, remember me mentioning those foods you shouldn't eat after 6 o'clock? I list them all inside my book. There you go. This is how we're doing this. Now, the next tip I go into might be something like, hey, there's a way that you can do this that's actually a lot of fun and it's going to actually increase your libido. Let me give you that tip right now. So in other words, I found a secondary benefit that somebody might have for losing weight. Increased sexual drive. People like that. Libido is a good thing, or so I keep telling people. And naturally, this is something most people who struggle with weight loss would like to know more about. So find something that your customer or potential customer would like to know more about, that if they employed your tips, if they leveraged what you had to say, would also grant them this. It's kind of a cool thing. And then I would simply give a nutritional tip that would be a combination of a weight loss tip and also something to naturally stimulate libido in this case. That's my example. And finally, I come to the 3rd type of tip, a how-to. So my 3rd tip would be, all right, How do you do this? Well, the very first thing you want to do is X. The second thing you want to do is Y. And the third thing is the most important. If you don't do the third thing, all of these tips and all of the things I've covered so far will not work at all. The third is the most important. Are you getting where I'm going with that? And here's how I phrase it. The third is your absolute need for accountability and a system that you can rely on, that has taken all the hard work off of your plate, has taken all the doubt and questions and lack of confidence all out of the way, giving you a system that is a paint by numbers blueprint for you to go from where you are to exactly the body and health you want. It's called blank. And presto, we are into the transition into the grand offer. That's all there is to it. But I want you to think about the psychology of what I just did. I educated, and my third step of that education leveraged the fact that if you don't do this, these all fail. So while the tips are good and people can apply them, and by the way, you can go for 10 minutes in this tip section. I'm just covering this in a very cursory format because I don't want the videos to be 20 hours long, but you can go into 5 or 10 minutes worth of tips, just as long as your last tip is the one that they cannot possibly do without. And that tip is to leverage a system, is to take advantage of a system. Here you can start showing testimonials of people who have leveraged your system, taken advantage of your system, utilized your system without saying the name of it yet because you haven't really revealed it yet. And presto, they are hooked into hearing more about your offer, which, by the way, is the final video in the series, and it's going to be a long one. It's called the Grand Offer. And the grand offer is all about the pitch. If you don't get the pitch right, this may sound really familiar, everything you've learned in the other videos, useless. But this is the truth. And by the way, everything I'm saying is the truth. It's been the truth, and everything you should say should be the truth too. Ethical persuasion is where it's at, man. But check this out. You want to employ not only ethical persuasion, but you also want to leverage the power of the pitch. You don't have to sacrifice ethics and a killer pitch. Because if you get someone to the point of ready to buy your offer and they don't because you just lame ass out on the pitch, you're not being ethical, you're being stupid. All right. This is not a smart thing to do. People need your product, but they do need to be sold sometimes on why they should get it. And in the next video, we're going to go over everything I can. It's going to be a long video. I can't go into every single detail because I've got it all mapped out inside Now VSL down to literally the slide. But I'm going to give you the basic idea of what creates the perfect pitch and how you can create it to where you don't have to be afraid or ashamed or icky feeling about selling something. Because guess what? I'm going to give you an idea that you can really sink your teeth into in the very next video on why it is unethical not to sell as hard as you can. How about that? Well, tune into the next video and find out. I am John Benson. This is Sales Copy Secrets. And until next time, I want you to be unignorable.